This man convinced Europe that he could cheat death. Princes sought his advice. Nobles paid fortunes for his services. Thousands believed he possessed supernatural powers. Why? Because he offered something we want more than logic, evidence, or proof. He offered hope. And the truly frightening part, if you had met him, you probably would have believed him too. His name is Count Alessandro Cagliostro, and his story reveals a truth every successful con man, cult leader, marketer, and entrepreneur eventually learns. People will believe almost anything when the alternative is accepting a painful reality. Let's find out why on this episode of Hustlers, Gamblers, and Entrepreneurs. Count Alessandro Cagliostro was born Giuseppe Balsamo in Palermo, Sicily in 1743. And if you think Count Alessandro Cagliostro sounds like a name somebody invented after 3 glasses of wine and a big score, you're not far off. Because he wasn't a count, he grew up an impoverished Italian peasant. He was not noble, he was not a magician, but what he was a brilliant salesman. From an early age, Cagliostro showed a remarkable talent for telling people exactly what they wanted to hear. He drifted through Europe, reinventing himself over and over again. An alchemist, a mystic, a healer, an occult master, the keeper of ancient Egyptian secrets. Whatever the audience wanted, Cagliostro seemed to have it. And that's where most people misunderstand con men. The successful ones don't sell lies, they sell solutions. A lie is merely the packaging. By the late 1700s, Europe was obsessed with secret knowledge. Science was advancing rapidly. Traditional religion was being questioned. People were looking for answers. Some wanted wealth, some wanted power, some wanted spiritual enlightenment, and almost everyone wanted relief from suffering. Cagliostro stepped into this environment and saw nothing but opportunity. He held seances, performed dramatic rituals, talked about having access to ancient wisdom. He claimed he could heal people, but healing the sick wasn't even enough. Cagliostro hinted at something even more powerful: rejuvenation, extended life, secret knowledge that could preserve youth and vitality. The 18th century had no answer to aging, no cure for death, and Cagliostro claimed he might. You might imagine his followers as gullible peasants, but that would not be true. They were educated, wealthy, and members of the aristocracy. Why? Because intelligence does not eliminate the need for hope. In truth, intelligent people are easier to fool because they're convinced they'd never fall for a con. They believe they'd see it coming, spot the lie, avoid the trap, and the truth is usually they don't. Their intelligence just gives the need for hope a better vocabulary. If your child is sick, if your health is failing, if you're terrified of growing old, the promise of a miracle becomes very, very attractive, especially when the person making the promise appears confident, charismatic, and successful. And Cagliostro was all three. His reputation spread across Europe like wildfire. Crowds followed him. Powerful people welcomed him. Money flowed in. And for a while, it looked like the performance would never end. But eventually, reality catches up with nearly every con. Questions began to surface. Authorities became interested. Critics challenged his claims. Questions became accusations. Accusations became investigations. And investigations became arrests. And his connection to the infamous affair of the diamond necklace in France brought enormous attention to his activities. Although he was exonerated at the time, and his exact role remains debated, the scandal damaged his reputation beyond measure. The mystic who seemed larger than life suddenly looked much more human. Eventually, Cagliostro ran afoul of the Roman authorities. The church investigated him, and his organization was condemned. He was arrested, and the man who claimed to have access to supernatural powers couldn't magically escape his prison cell. He died in captivity in 1795. And yet, more than 2 centuries later, people still remember his name because he understood something profound about human nature. He understood that people rarely buy facts, they buy hope. When someone is suffering, scared, desperate, or uncertain, evidence becomes secondary. The promise of relief becomes primary. That's true of miracle cures, it's true of cults, it's true of politics, and most importantly, it's true of business. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying hope is bad. It's one of the most powerful forces in human life. However, hope must be connected to reality. The entrepreneur who understands a customer's fears and desires can build a great business. The con man who understands the same fears and desires can build a great fraud. Both begin in the exact same place, a deep understanding of what people desperately want. The difference is whether you actually deliver. And delivering on promises is the difference between a con man running from the law and a wealthy, respected entrepreneur living an amazing, full life. Until next time, the most dangerous lies are the ones that we desperately want to believe.